Okay, begin. All right. This is the January 2026 Resiliency Board meeting. We can begin with those present, so we have the roll. Begin with you, Eric.
Eric Milliron, present.
Jeff Ziegler, here.
John Rumble.
Greg Warden.
Planning.
Alex Larry.
John Vogel, and online we have
Bill Lexius.
Linda and
Linda Topoleski.
Grace Robb. So, all right, so we have a quorum here. The first item is the meeting minutes from November, which were passed out the email previously. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding the agenda? Seeing none, will someone make a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by John, second.
Second.
By Grace. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So the ayes have it. Well, now I know that Jeff was away on business, but he is back. But is there a commissioner liaison report?
Oh, we have citizens' comments, and we do have.
I'm sorry, citizens' comments, sir, first.
Thank you. Would you like me to go up to the podium?
Yes, sir. If you could just stand at the podium and just your name, address, and off to the races.
All right, very good. Good evening. My name is John Herman. I live on Baywood Avenue in Mount Lebanon. I was here a few weeks ago asking the board to consider recommending to the commission restrictions on the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers. The reason I asked the board to consider this I detailed some environmental and quality of life impacts that these leaf blowers can have on our community. Tonight I have an update for you. This past November, a township outside of Philadelphia called the Lower Merion Township became the first municipality in Pennsylvania to enact restrictions and a ban on these gasoline-powered leaf blowers. 2 other municipalities are expected to file suit shortly, and others are actively considering it. Lower Merion Township has a very similar socioeconomic character to Mount Lebanon. And though we have twice the population in half the area, so we have a far higher population density than Lower Merion does, and presumably noise and fumes from these blowers would bother our residents even more. Lower Merion, before taking action, was quite deliberate in their study of this issue and what to do about it. I spent a year or two collecting data, soliciting input from the residents, from its own township ground crews, and from businesses in the area. The input it received from the township's ground crews as to whether it was feasible and what the cost would be. The results in their study showed that the ground crew felt changing over to electric leaf blowers was feasible, and that the cost would depend on the speed of the changeover, because older equipment is constantly and regularly replaced anyhow. The township interviewed landscape companies to learn the potential impact on these businesses. Although some companies said the impact would be very difficult for them to handle, others said that they had already converted to electric equipment or could do so as long as their competitors had to as well. And the township took extensive comments from the residents. And while some people opposed it, a large majority were in favor of it, and the restrictions passed. Here's a summary of those restrictions. In 2026 and 2027, year 1 and 2, there would be seasonal bans on the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers. In other words, gas leaf blowers could only be used in the spring and the fall, and not in the summer and the winter. In the 3rd year, 2028, use of these blowers would only be permitted in the fall. In the fourth year, there would be a complete year-round ban on the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers. Now, to clarify, the use of electric-powered leaf blowers is allowed all year long. And this includes both battery electric blowers and corded leaf blowers. And just for your information, I checked on Amazon, you can buy a highly rated Ryobi corded model and a 100-foot heavy-duty outdoor cord, extension cord, total for $100. The ordinance does not apply during or within 24 hours of a snowfall. It applies to both residents and landscapers and bans both the gas-powered blowers and gas generators that they might set up to power their electric cords. The enforcement is complaint-based, meaning the police are not charged with driving around trying to catch people, but they do respond to complaints. Fines are $100 for the first offense and $250 for the second. Retail stores in the township that sell gas-powered leaf blowers are required to post notice near this area, informing potential buyers of what the township's plans are for restrictions. And an extensive public education campaign is ongoing. Lower Merion Township produced an in-depth report of its findings and its studies.
Sir, if I could, sorry to interrupt. Normally we have how many minutes for people to speak? 5.
I'll be done in 10 seconds.
Fine, thank you.
This study may be useful to your commission to obtain a copy from the Lower Merion Township. And I have some experience in this field and would be happy to informally assist the board should it ask me to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, great information. I really appreciate it, and that's useful. And I'd love to see if you wouldn't mind sharing the resolution from Lower Merion. That would be great to look over.
Do we have anyone online that?
Nobody online.
Nobody online? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Going on to the rest, the remainder of the agenda. Now the commission liaison report.
Let's see. Since we last met, we haven't really had we had an organizational meeting where we brought on two new commissioners, Margaret Izzo and Nick Petty. And then the first meeting of the year was pretty, wasn't much done at that time, but the two sort of updates that are relevant were that the ordinances that we recommended through this advisory board regarding maintenance and upkeep of the commercial district, those were split into two. One was an update to an existing ordinance, and one was a new ordinance. Last night, the new ordinance, I believe, passed, and the existing ordinance we held a hearing for, which means that at the next commission meeting, there's no reason to see that won't pass, so that we'll have those two new pieces of ordinance in place so that we have additional means to enforce empty vacant property rules, maintenance on properties that are basically not being well maintained. So, and then I do know that we're kind of getting ready to get started with the zoning refresh. Not that that's necessarily specific just to the commission, but I do know that we're getting ready to get involved more in the zoning refresh. And
Jeff, side topic on that one as
Yeah,
well.
please.
We have a stakeholder meeting in February, early February for that. And then the consultants will be presenting at the planning board in February as well. So just kind of putting things on the agenda.
thank you. Yeah, as far as anything else currently in front of the commission, no, I mean, last night's meeting was mostly just buying, approving the funds to buy lots of machinery and equipment and vehicles. So that being the beginning of the year, not too much.
And probably for the benefit of the board, and I know you've mentioned this before, Eric, and Jeff, but how do you see us in the zoning refresh, our roles in that?
Yeah, I think that considering, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot considering our sort of sort of faceted approach or what we're doing here between the commercial districts and resiliency and preservation. I do think that those will all sort of have a say, and I assume that we're going to, I think all the setup, I guess, isn't all set yet, but I would imagine we'd ask a few people to come over from this particular committee to be a part of that. Whether that's sort of a steering committee, I know that we'll probably have regular updates, but I would assume everybody's on board with having this advisory board have a lot of input on what's coming together from that. There's a lot of expertise here that I think is very valuable.
It may be possibly a subject of one of our meetings, depending on how this goes and the schedule of it, that everybody would be here to add their input in that. So.
Yeah, I'd expect that we will have the consultants come in and come to one of these meetings and hear the different opinions. And I think we should also spend time considering what the three subcommittees would like to introduce or have included in that as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
And just to riff on that a little bit, just a sense of timeline. This is going to be a lengthy process, so we're not going to be wrapping this up anytime soon. So we're really looking at spring of 27 is my understanding. So it's really this entire year. And of course, they're looking at the entire zoning and saldo. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. But just as the commissioner said, and as we've been saying all along, when you're looking at the comp plan and you're looking at your particular focus area vis-a-vis your subcommittees, be thinking about best practices and zoning recommendations that you would like to bring forward. Again, now's the time to do that. So if you have any questions on that, you contact Greg or myself or both of us preferably, just so we can loop you in and provide any technical assistance to you as you are on that journey.
Great. Anything else, Commissioner?
No.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a resolution, and I would probably best if Commissioner Sigler, if you wanted to explain a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a few months back, a friend and colleague approached me, and she's involved with an organization called Third Act, and I believe it's an organization of individuals that kind of in the third phase of their life, and they're very heavily involved in politics around the state. And she'd asked if basically she wanted to know, hey, is there any chance that Mount Lebanon could possibly pass a resolution showing support of this particular language? And I said, well, yeah, I would certainly look at it, but it would be more appropriate to go in front of the Resiliency Board first. And if I recall the idea behind it, I don't have it in front of me, but the idea behind it is giving Pennsylvanians more, giving Pennsylvanians more sort of choice in where we procure electric, where we get our power. And so understand that there is, there's an economic impact in terms of jobs. I think it reduces our dependency on fossil fuels. And right now, there's, and as you can read the rest of the items in it, generally it seems to be pretty positive. What the issue is, I believe, is that it's currently held up at the state Senate. And so they're just looking for municipalities to pass resolutions saying that we can support this in hopes of getting the Senate to move on this issue. So that's a quick summary, and thanks for including this in the notes.
All right, we've introduced it, and then I guess the next thing is we would like with the introduction on the agenda to discuss and request a motion to support this resolution by the Resiliency Board. And before we would do any type of vote on this, does anybody have any questions about this, either here or Phil, Linda, Grace? Now, it seems like this would be a fine idea, and I think that if it seems to be pretty straightforward, and again, it's just kind of a spirit of the board on this. So I would make if someone would, I will make the motion to support this. I would make a motion for the Resiliency Board to support this resolution of the Mount Lebanon Commission calling on the legislature of the Commonwealth to passed legislation to allow for the creation of community energy programs in Pennsylvania. I've made that motion. Does anybody want to second it?
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Excellent, thank you very much. I know that Manager McGill will then make a note that this was a resolution supported by the advisory board, and that will come in front of the commission in the coming months, and hopefully we will pass that resolution and support it. So thank you.
The next is with the committees, Economic Business District Committee. Anything to report on this?
Just an update that Kirill and Commissioner Sigler and I met a couple of weeks back to talk about overall our role with the zoning refresh, as well as our role in partnership with the Mount Lebanon Partnership on that front. And a couple of other items. We subsequently had a joint meeting then with Doreen Saletti, the president of the partnership, and Kate Irvin, the executive director, to walk through some things with them. A side note on that, as Eric knows, we had a presentation at the last Mount Lebanon Partnership Board meeting by Mara with Town Center to kind of give us a refresh of the Vitality Index, where the Uptown Business District stands, and what are some of the obstacles to increasing our Vitality Index score, et cetera. So that's part of a broader discussion that the partnership is having, as well as you know, Paul Ostergaard, who's on the Planning Commission, also heads the design committee for the partnership. And at the risk of everyone saying, "Wait, how does all this connect?" We see the intersection being weighing in, number one, on the zoning refresh. So Greg, I was interested, you mentioned the stakeholder meeting is in the beginning of February, and do you have the invite list together for that? And are representatives of the partnership and the advisory board on that? And if so, what is the date for it?
I'm not exactly sure. I know Ian McMeans, the municipal planner and assistant manager, is heading that up. I have to double check with him to see exactly what it is, but I would say it's a small group of people. I know it's more of it's not even really a stakeholder meeting, it's more of like the steering committee.
Yeah, the first meeting is a steering committee meeting. So the steering committee is comprised of a member of the planning board. Ian is the staff lead. Myself, some other folks. So the steering committee is a very tight, succinct group. I believe at that meeting, sorry, Greg.
I think it's the February 6th.
Yeah, so that meeting's really just the steering committee. And I believe at that meeting is really where they're going to start hashing out the particulars and fine points of outreach to Resiliency Advisory Board, Mount Lebanon Partnership, all of those sort of groups. They've already, just so you're aware, and everybody on watching this or certainly at the meeting, we had a kickoff meeting with OHM and their subs, and clearly I articulated various stakeholder groups, Mount Lebanon Partnership being one, to have their input, and obviously the advisory board. So they're aware of that, and again at this steering committee meeting in the next week or so, I think the details of the outreach will become evident.
Okay, thank you. The second piece, and it's for later discussion, perhaps at the February meeting, but just to tee this up, is we were talking about the what PennDOT's plans are for Route 19 and for Dormont, but also on Washington Road for Uptown, and what the potential bureaucratic limitations versus legal limitations are, what the role of any of us would be in that. We realize that's a pretty complicated subject, but we wanted to look at opening that discussion up a bit more so that some perhaps softer ways of going about easing traffic in Uptown could be explored. And one of the things we wanted to explore that doesn't require necessarily PennDOT is the option of doing some pilot closures of the Uptown Business District, perhaps 2 in late spring and 2 in the fall, coinciding with the Uptown Farmers Market that the partnership holds, but having the Resiliency Board be involved as well. More to come on that, but we just wanted to tee that up. There've been some discussions with Chief Haberman. There is some budget available within the partnership potentially. So that's one thing we wanted to look at. So again, more to come, just early discussion, but teeing it up now.
Well, great, Linda. And I think it might be at least perhaps at the February meeting, because I've attended a series of PennDOT meetings regarding the Dormont project, obviously, because that's leading up to the resurfacing and improvements to our segment of 19. We have some time, but it might be good at the next meeting to kind of just to educate everyone, kind of where they're at now, just very high level, where they're at now. I will tell you this, that because the previous Economic Development Council had created and passed a complete streets policy, we've already been able to, pardon the pun, but pump the brakes a little bit on this project, as has Dormont. And I will say that PennDOT has been very attentive to Dormont's concerns and questions and have changed their plans for the Dormont sections accordingly. So I anticipate, a good working relationship with PennDOT to hear us out on a number of these things. So that's one. So at the next meeting, I think it might be good to spend a few minutes just kind of going over that timeline and when they expect to let a project out here in Mount Lebanon. It's not imminent, but it is certainly on the horizon. So I think that's important. And then the other thing to mention too is, we are in the midst of an active transportation plan, and that's really the official document and strategy that is important to focus on. So that process is in tandem with the zoning refresh. So we have a couple of really big kahuna things happening here. And the active transportation plan really is where these sorts of concepts can nest and have real results. But I think, I get to your point, Linda, I think it's important for everybody to understand where things are at, because I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Well, when is this going to happen? And this type of thing. And so I think maybe at the next meeting, if it's fine with the chair, we can spend a few minutes, just offering that timeline.
Yeah, just add that as an agenda item for next meeting.
Okay.
I think that would be great. Thanks, Eric. And also, it might be great too, even for next Friday's partnership meeting, for a bit of an update there too from you, which I can ask Kate to just add onto the agenda or make it part of your report there too.
Yeah, I can maybe bake that into, I do a municipal summary. It's about time to give it a refresh, since that's the word of the day. Because some of the projects on there, I can pop that on. So that'd be great if you want to talk to Kate or Doreen or whomever. But
Okay.
all I would need is a few minutes. I could even just we'll figure it out, Linda. But yes, that's a good idea.
Okay. Thank you. For Historic Preservation Committee update, Phil?
Yes, we haven't been getting too much done actually of late, but I have now downloaded all of the official files related to our historic district. The things like the inventory plan, maps and plans, inventory. And we're still need to work on progressing towards coming up with devising a management plan. But some of the questions that I'm working on, still sort of in a fact-finding mode, is figuring out, well, who really has responsibility for maintaining that inventory? I haven't heard back yet from the Chapeau. I've reached out to Bill and some other folks, and also the Park Service, trying to get a sense of, okay, now wait a minute. We now have this historic district. but, we need to maintain the inventory, try to maintain the historic district rather than letting it just sort of slowly disappear through attrition, because we don't have a management plan in place. Part of the issue is that, as we discovered, there was that discrepancy. I think I've mentioned you guys before about the people saying, well, there's over 4,300 historic properties in the district. Well, no, there are 4,263 listings on the inventory, but of those, only 3,368 are actually contributing properties considered to be historic. That's still a huge number of historic structures. And so it's really a bit of a challenge, and I'm not sure that anyone, even at the state level, has given any thought to how do we actually comprehensively manage such a large historic district. As I told you before, this is the biggest one in the state. It's very actually unusual to have an historic district, National Register historic district, with this many contributing members. I mean, thousands of historic structures, and trying to just keep track of them all is a major effort. We haven't really done anything about this, in the over 10 years that the district's been in place. So we don't even really know how many of those listings on the inventory are actually still even existing or are still indeed historic, would qualify any longer. So we need to try to figure out, well, who's responsible for this? And because it's a massive effort. And talking with a friend of mine who just went off as chair of the State Historic Preservation Board, he said, this is a massive effort that you're proposing. And so I'm trying to, before we meet with my subcommittee here, I need to get more information about how have other people handled this? How does the state want us to handle it? Because we don't have control of that inventory, right? It's actually the Park Service gives it to the states as a responsibility for maintaining the record of any of these National Registers districts. So I still got to sort of figure all that out and then have my group work together to try to come up with a comprehensive management plan, something we can afford to do. I mean, we're not actually, as a municipality, looking to go out and spend a lot of money, hire a historic preservation officer to maintain our historic district. But we do need to come up with some overall overarching plan, a cost-effective plan, obviously, to do what we can to keep track of it, to manage it, to try to encourage folks not to destroy historic structures or to modify them so extensively that they no longer are considered to be part of the National Register district. So that is something that really we're going to need to step up and start focusing on more and getting going on this. And I've been a little slow getting it rolling here, but we will start working on this. And I don't know, Grace has been talking with the Historical Society, right? So we might have
Yeah,
some.
I was going to sort of sidebar off of that. So I had spoken last year at the Residence Academy, and then this year as well. So I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. We've been snowed for so long, I don't remember. I think it was the 15th of January. I spoke at the Residence Academy again. Originally, the Historic Preservation Board, when it was just a board, would speak to the Residence Academy, but I'm still doing that, but underneath sort of RAB, but I say, I'm in the Historic Preservation Subcommittee. But both last year and this year, and then an event I spoke with Phil at the Historical Society in July of this past year. We talk about how great the historic district is and how in the comp plan, it's like one of the like most voted on things in like the sticker surveys, like people love the historicity of Mount Lebanon and all this sort of stuff. And people always want to know, oh, is my home contributing? Am I within the district? All this sort of stuff. How can I get in the district if I'm not? All these sort of questions. And then they ask, and I had a lot more questions at this past Residence Academy. They were very engaged a couple weeks ago of, okay, I'm in the historic district, now what? And I have to say, it's sort of interesting because I have to be like, well, we're not an enforceable district. We're not a certified local government. So, I mean, it counts for something in terms of, Section 106 and those other federal processes we've talked about, but there's no like other thing, I guess that like protects them here. And so they're like, I would have questions that are sort of like hypothetical, and hyperbole things where people are like, so I could basically, destroy my home or completely change the facade and I'd still be in the historic district. And I'm like, well, yes, like as of now. And so it's sort of, I don't know necessarily what like the output of these sort of discussions is, but I think there does seem to be at least some questions or confusion that pop up. And I'm not saying, oh, let's make it an enforceable district, have every mullion approved and all this sort of stuff. But there is definitely a lot of conversation that comes up from people who are moving here, from people who have been here about like, what does it mean? Because they know, or they're eager to know and find out if they're in the district and if they're part of it. And it's not, as forward facing as some of the important economic development things or sustainability and things like that. Of course, it's a more of a background process. But it still is it's something that comes up in conversation more than you think, I think. And I'm just trying to figure, I think, how, and this is some of the processes I think Phil and I will go through, how do we navigate that for the future? If there is a change, if it does become enforceable, there is a CLG, or, are we able to, talk to the building code people and find out have some of these historic properties been destroyed or things like that. I think there's just a lot of questions that, like Phil said, need to be answered because there's people who are asking them out there, residents that are. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I just actually had a call this week, and I do get calls because I guess I'm the new Laura, so people call me when there's these sorts of things. So I can echo what you're saying, that there is interest there. And the question that the lady that I spoke with this week was interested in if they could make alterations. Not that she was looking to do that, but again, to your point, I think when they hear they're in a historic district, they assume they're in a historic district like the Mexican War Streets or East Carson Street or something like that, where there is that local sort of judicial review and consequences potentially if you do some things. So.
Right.
I just wanted to back you up. Yeah, I do think they want to learn more.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's been a lot of confusion about a lot of properties, like I said, are within the boundaries of the district, but are not contributing members. And unfortunately, there was an inventory created before the district was approved that doesn't match up with the official final inventory that was created when the district was approved. So there's misleading information out there. I know the Historical Society has struggled with this too, people coming to them and say, well, am I in the district or aren't I? And basically we gave them the map that was created. We're not sure when that map was created and which inventory it was based on. So we're telling them, go ahead and use the map for now. Just tell them, well, yeah, if you're on the map, your property is a contributing member. To be honest, we're not totally certain, but by and large, that's pretty accurate. But these are things we obviously need to straighten out. So that we want to really get this done this year because, hey, this coming up here, this will be my last year on the board. I'm in my 7th year already. This next one will be my 8th. That's plenty of time to be serving on a board. And I'd like to get something like this in place to guide the next folks coming on board over the next couple of years.
That's great. Thank you, Phil.
All right, thank you. Sustainability and Local Ecology Committee, I guess, who else is on that committee?
John.
We did meet since our last meeting here. We discussed the proposed ban on the plastic and single-use plastic bags and styrofoam, as well as the gas-powered leaf blowers. We were going to bring it in front of everybody as to whether we would recommend going to the commission, but Chet's unfortunately not be able to be here. He wanted to be here to present it, so we're going to table it till next month.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. I guess a couple of things before we get into the staff liaison report, a couple of questions I wanted to bring up from doing this is, I guess, first off, how many spots do we have to fill now? Are we all filled up?
Well, with Lynn leaving, that's one that we need to fill. There were some other terms that were up. It's escaping me now exactly who all they were, 'cause this was a number of months ago, but everybody
Was reappointed who?
is going to be in March. And then I think we have one individual that won't be. So that all gets sorted by March.
Okay.
So the commission will have to appoint folks to.
To the extent we're not intruding on the commission or if something could be set out, who's coming on, who's not coming on, things like that, just so we know where the committees are going, I would appreciate that, okay, for next meeting.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I've thought of, and the reports have been pretty good, but usually what ends up seems to be happening is that we don't, we come in here and we find out like for the first time, after 6 o'clock, what the committee's done. I'm thinking that, and again, I know that, not all of you, most of you, probably all of you don't have copious amounts of free time. But for the meetings, if a few days beforehand, you could do a short report of what it is. It doesn't need to be a formal memo or anything like that, but just something that we have, that can be given to the board 2 days before or before the meeting, just so we have an idea of what's occurring. I think, Eric, you've had that with some other committees, groups you've worked on. I mean.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, that's just helpful. And to John's point, it doesn't need to be a tome or, some sort of thing. Just a high level summary of items that you're discussing, and certainly any items that you would want action on.
Yeah, yes.
So a motion or something of that nature. But even at the very least, if you're, like what Phil just reported out, like all the things that they're working on there, I think it's good to have that in a narrative summary format, just for the record. And we have the minutes, and at any time, anybody can watch any of these videos at their leisure, and get that information. But certainly going into the meeting, maybe there's something in that high-level summary report that may jog a question or lead to maybe a better dialogue amongst the various members. So.
Yeah. If okay. Again, if you could maybe, what are other people's thoughts on this? Because that's easy for me to say as chair, make reports. But what are the thoughts of the reporters, so to speak?
That sounds actually like a good idea. I mean, I think that would have been helpful to have myself to put something in writing a couple of days ahead of time. Eric, would we then submit that to you to distribute to the board, or?
Yeah, that would be ideal. I mean, in the world that I live in, I try diligently to sort of a week or more before the meeting, just get a head count on who's able to attend this and that. And if you have anything that you want to bring to the agenda for action. So, and that's where it's at. But you would, myself and Greg, I mean, we kind of co-pilot this thing. But if you want to keep it simple, certainly you can just send it to me, whatever the case is. And then I can package that and distribute accordingly.
When would you like the reports in by?
I mean, ideally, I think it would be helpful to have it a week before our meeting. But I understand that, it could be difficult to herd cats, meeting your committees. We all know how difficult that is. So, I mean, ideally, in the best of all possible worlds, it would be fantastic to get it a week prior, the Wednesday prior. But because I'm a kind soul, I think we can, work with schedules, so it doesn't have to necessarily be exactly a week. I will say this, that I try to get, I'll say we shall get the agendas posted a week ahead of time. So the sooner I can have information, the better, because we want to get the agendas posted for the public so that they're aware of what all the advisory boards are discussing, so if they want to come or not come or whatever the case might be. So that's the time frames that I work in my mind. So the Wednesday prior to the meeting, I try to get everything sorted so that we can get the agendas posted appropriately. But again, I understand schedules can be tough, but ideally it'd be great if I could have everything a week before. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a week prior to our meeting would be ideal, I think, for us. It would sync everything nicely.
And keep in mind on things like that, I mean, if something comes up at the last minute or for people scheduling or topics, let's say that a committee is meeting, but they were going to meet with another Mount Lebanon board or another outside group, and that didn't happen until, Thursday before the meeting, obviously, you can supplement the reports or the like. So it being a little bit flexible, but I think, Monday at 5:00 will not be ideal for Eric. I mean,
It's more about the public. We just want the public to, we want to be as transparent as possible. And to John's point, schedules conflict. We had a circumstance where, the sustainability report had to be tabled for just things that were beyond anyone's control. So, things happen. That's clear. It's flexible. But, I don't want to belabor the point. But, I think if we could have everything, any sort of report, and again, high level, it doesn't need to be wicked detailed, but, that just would allow me to get things on the agenda that we can post them online and all of that good stuff. So.
yeah. And part of that is, I know that a topic that I've actually mentioned to Eric before is that, the way that this board is, it's using cliches, unique amalgam of different boards and together and starting off last year and doing things. It took a little time to find our sea legs, but I also think just in general, what happens is if anybody, and I've seen this, I've seen a good amount of it, but I think once in a while it's like we're looking at things coming to us on things. And really, for anybody who has ideas on the committee, and I know Phil's been pretty good about this, is that if we are pretty much have ideas of what we want to do, it's not only what the reports are, but if it's also saying, hey, I have this idea, pardon me, I have this idea on X, at least, so we're not so much, so we avoid being reactive, but maybe more proactive. And so I think that's something I'd like to emphasize how this is. And so again, I know, if anybody has ideas on things, by all means, make that part of the committee, make that part of the board, or bring it up at a meeting, because there may be something where someone on sustainability has an idea for economic development or the like, because again, I think, one thing about this is everybody on this board is a professional. And we don't come on here with like a specific agenda and, or like, I want to have X. It isn't like being on the school board where they want, Mount Lebanon's by CMLs where they want to have, better funding for the football team, or we want to build, another AstroTurf field. It's not that. I think that, what we have is we're professionals and we're not one topic, board members. But with that, I think if we have ideas on it, please bring them forward. And all I said is this, and this is maybe more for Jeff and Eric. I'm on a solicitor at Scott Township for the Planning Commission, and they really don't have it's not the same way where there's a lot of organizations, a lot of subcommittees, there's decent public participation, but it's not as broad or as deep as Mount Lebanon. Mm-hmm. Of course, Mount Lebanon's twice the size. So what ends up happening is that the planning commission will get things such as, well, people want to control the dogs, roaming in the street or things like that. That gets before the planning commission. There have been times I said, well, under the MPC, this isn't really part of it, but, they ask us to do it. It's like, well, if people have an idea of what some of this stuff is generally, go ahead, do it. So I think that, to the extent that if the commissioners or the administration think, hey, we have we have a lot of talent on this board that, if they want us to take a look at something, we can. So, and by kind of some example, like with this resolution on energy, it may be tough to put this to pigeonhole into maybe sustainability, but again, it is kind of what we do. So, I understand my comments. So, any comments on what I said?
No, and I would just, you've heard me say this every meeting almost, but I'm going to say it again because it's fun. The comp plan is the North Star document. That's why we're here. So again, there's the placemat, there's the comp plan. I mean, look at it, champion something. That really is a roadmap for our reason to be.
All right then, next we have the staff liaison report.
Okay, well, I'll kick it off. So I'm just going to dial back a little bit into the sustainability, John, if you don't mind, just because one of the things that we moved forward was the Hidden Hollow concept at the golf course. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. So the next step is we're going to be presenting, when I say we, Chet and I, and anyone's welcome to join us, John, anybody. But we're going to be at the Manager McGill asked that we present to the Parks Advisory Board. He felt that was where we should land that for various reasons. Dave Donnellan, who's the Recreation Director, is the liaison to that board, and they have some purview over the golf course, if you will. So that's going to be the next step on that. So Chet, myself, and whomever would like to join us will be at that meeting. That's the Wednesday prior to our February meeting. So we're going to present the concept, address any questions they may have. Again, we want to be clear that anything that is in the Hidden Hollow proposal does not infringe on gameplay at the golf course at all. Zero impact. And it's not really about even activating the park. It's about going back to the comp plan. One of the first mentions in the resiliency chapter is expand tree canopy. And so you have to, again, find places where that can be done in a meaningful way. And that's where this Hidden Hollow concept really, that's the genesis of it and the intent of it. So that's the next step. So I just wanted to touch on that. That is moving. So we'll be doing that presentation, hoping to get that board's support, and then we'll take it from there. Where that is, in my mind, is, talk to the manager, talk to the commission. I think at that point, it'll be up to the manager to direct this ship. But from where I sit, what I would see is that we would then, at a discussion session, present the plan to the commission for their edification and feedback and input, and then take it from there. I would, if this all moves accordingly in a positive way, and I'd like to start writing grants to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy to try to start getting trees and implementing that. And we do have some really great assistance with some local volunteers that are landscape architects that have been on board with us for a little bit, and I know we might have others. So that's progressing. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Any questions before I move off of Hidden Hollow? Okay, great. Also wanted to revisit the Activate Uptown. Thanks to the commission, they dedicated $221,000 in the 26 budget via bond issuance that'll be packaged for, I believe, a May consideration for them. There's a number of projects in this bond for consideration. Activate Uptown is a piece of that. And if you remember the Activate Uptown presentations, $221,000 is not the whole enchilada. So, what I always, as we all know, you don't eat an elephant in one gulp, you eat it bite by bite, and same with Activate Uptown. It's a massively scoped conceptual plan, but where we're looking to start moving things is at Clock Tower Plaza and around the portal. So I've met with Gateway Engineers. We're going to have a follow-up meeting with our electrician, as well as Tim Steinauer from the partnership, and some others to really dial in a couple projects that we can actualize this year. So haven't really pinned that down exactly yet, but we're looking at sunshades, the stairway, which I affectionately refer to as the portal. Activating that with really dynamic lighting and really accentuating that bridge between the light rail and station to our central business district, as well as some public art. So we're going to be dialing that in the next month or so, getting prepared for the commission to take a look at that before they pull the trigger on the bond issuance. Any questions on that? And then real briefly, we did have a new business open uptown. Jay Jones did open right before Christmas holiday season. So that's a new retail business that opened up at 666 Washington Road. That's right by Totopo. So we're very happy to have them. They do formal evening wear. It's primarily it's mostly for women. So I won't be shopping there too much, at least for myself. But please visit and say hello if you're up in the district for that. And then I'm working with a number of leads that are looking to locate their business here. And it's always the matchmaking game of making sure it's the right business for our town, but also that we can find the right location if that location is available. So hopefully we'll be able to have some good announcements on that shortly.
Great. All right. Anything, let's see, we had the next student liaison report.
So I bet over the past few days, a lot of you probably been thinking about the snow, especially how much we got. And what I think is really important is the way we go about clearing the snow. Mount Lebanon probably uses around 5,000 to 8,000 pounds of salt every year during the winter season. And Mount Lebanon really just uses traditional methods of snow removal. Just send the plows out, lay down salt, end of the day. But some other townships in the area and the city of Pittsburgh itself have been using methods of pre-treatment before storms, and not only pre-treatment, but they've been using, instead of just the salt, they'll actually make brine and use that instead. And the main advantage is that this can really reduce the amount of salt that you use when clearing snow. And why that's important is that, well, we have a lot of creeks around in Mount Lebanon, and all that runoff of salt will end up right in our waterways. So the more you can reduce that, the better you can do for the environment in our area. And there's been a few studies on the usage of liquid brine, and it could reduce some. A Wisconsin-Madison study found it was 20% decrease. One from Penn State found 30% decrease in salt usage. And basically the way it works is that once you put that out, any snow that falls on it will just simply melt before it even becomes a problem. Now, obviously there's limitations. It wouldn't work in this weather. It's too cold. It has to be above 15 degrees for it to actually work. If rain's gonna happen before it snows, it will get washed away. So that's another limitation. Also, we love our brick roads here. It's not too great for those either. But even just on our main roads here, I believe even just a small amount, that will compound year after year to really reduce the amount we use. And it actually could save us some money. Well, ignoring the cost of buying equipment, it could also save money in the long run. But obviously the goal here is not to save money on our salt usage, it's to reduce the amount of salt we're putting in our local environment.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Any questions? Very good report. Thank you. Out of curiosity, has the municipality ever thought of brining the roads ahead of time, or is that just Not how we do things here.
I do not know the answer. That would be able to
Yeah, I-
review
It sounds just
public
kind of
works. I'm not
Well,
sure.
yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm not an expert, but I don't know that we have the equipment or the facility to do that. Brine is obviously a liquid dispersal of, of a product. And there's I don't know, I don't know that our trucks are outfitted for that. And if they were outfitted for that, and if you were to put salt in, then there's that crossover
Yeah,
time.
how soon can you?
Safety is always, let me just say that, safety is always first. So, but I am familiar with the brining situation. I can follow with Public Works and see what the story is there.
We do have a brine tank.
We do have a brine tank.
Yeah, we
That
do
wasn't-
brine. It's not the primary use though, it's the salt, but yeah, we do have brine. I said tank. It's down right actually in front of the salt shed. So we do have one. It's kind of not as used as much just because it's dependent on the forecast. So I think it's more of a case by case basis. But.
Yeah, that's what I'm not certain, but we could get more information from Public Works and how they do that. But yeah, certainly there's a lot of salt that gets put on the roads, and that obviously goes somewhere. It doesn't just, doesn't end up on your margarita.
Let's see, any old business? Any new business? Seeing none, the next regularly scheduled meeting of this board is Wednesday, February 25th at 6 p.m. We have a Zoom webinar component to enable residents to attend meetings virtually. And will someone make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done. Thank you very much.